What is up, everybody? Welcome back, Fence Fam. It's so good to see you guys again. We're on a streak here. I've seen you guys for the last 2 months or something, a month and a half, maybe. Irregardless, I'm so happy you guys are back. Regardless, irregardless, you get it. Hey, guys, today's guest, I know I've said this the last several weeks, but it's just as true today. I'm so stoked to have on this week's guest, Shawn Van Dyke. I was telling Shawn before this live started, it's kind of surreal to be able to speak back to Shawn. So I listened to his book, Profit First for Contractors. If you guys haven't read this book, if you haven't listened to this book, the book is linked in the description below. You need to buy it, read it, listen to it, whatever you need to do. But anyway, I listen to Shawn about once a quarter. So it's kind of surreal to be able to talk back. So, or be able to speak back with him, have a conversation. So I'm stoked. I hope you guys are stoked. Let's bring him on. Shawn, how are you?
Hey, Fence Fam. Hey, Joe. Great to see you, man. And great to get to talk to you this quarter and give you, maybe give you a little smackdown, maybe give you a little, pump you up a little bit and everybody else. So thanks so much for having me on. I'm super pumped to be here.
Of course. Shawn, let's start kind of at a 30,000 foot view and then kind of bring people in a little bit. So a lot of times when we're reading books, they're not necessarily written by guys with experience in the industry, right? And when we say industry, you have specific experience in the construction industry. Is that right?
Yeah, I started a long time ago. I guess it really started. I got a couple of degrees in engineering. So let that settle, and everybody's already rolling their eyes. I know. I like to make fun of engineers because I used to be one, but that's where I started out. I got a couple of degrees in undergrad in civil engineering and a master's in structural engineering, and thought like that was my destiny. That's what I wanted to do. And then after, I don't know, 5 or 6 years, I realized I didn't know how to build anything as an engineer. I knew how to draw a bunch of stuff and calculate stuff. And so I moved on from engineering and then got into commercial construction as a project manager, did the commercial construction for a while, and then wound my way, ended up working for some architects and then eventually a real estate developer as a construction manager. So traveled mainly the Southeast United States and the Midwest, building large retail stuff as a real estate developer, construction manager. And then by that time I was married, we had a couple of kids, and when you're traveling all over the US, you got to go where the work is. My wife was like, "Hey, glad you enjoy your job, but you being on the road 3 or 4 days a week, and we got 2 kids and another one on the way. We have 5 now, so you can do the math." I quit that job and started my own real estate development and construction management firm. I'm here in Knoxville, Tennessee. So this was 2005, around 2005 when I started that company and developing commercial real estate around here. Then 2008 hit, and banks weren't loaning any money to real estate developers anymore. So I kind of pivoted and started a residential remodeling company. So I did that for several years. And then just so happened that one of my subcontractors, my trim and millwork subcontractor, their business was blowing up. They were doing really high end. They got into some high end projects. And then we can talk about this in a little bit. But my buddy came to me and said, "Hey, I'm really good out in the field. I got 6 guys now, but we got all this work. We sold all this work. I don't know how I'm going to get it done." He's like, "Do you think it's a bad idea for me to like hire somebody to come in and just run the business? I can run the field, but I cannot run the business side." Yeah. And as the contractor that he was, one of the contractors he was working for, I was like, "Dude, that is a great idea. People do it all the time." And I was like, "You're right. You do suck at running the business because your invoices are always screwed up. Your paperwork, you get your guys there on site. Wonderful. But everything around, outside of the work, the business part of it," I was like, "Yeah, you suck at it. You really need to find somebody that knows business, that knows systems, that will track everything. That's who you need." And he was like, "Great, you do it." And I was like, "No, what are you talking?" Like, I've got my own thing going on here. And he's a really good salesman. And he was like, and he called me out. He was like, "Listen, you got this small little remodeling company." He was like, "I got these big projects. It's going to take you 20 years to get to this point, to where I'm at. But if I don't nail these next few projects in the next year, I'm going to be out of business." He's like, "But you're the guy. I want you to come in." And I was like, "All right, I'll call your bluff. Listen, I'll come and I'll be your operations guy. I'll be your COO. But here's the deal. I run the business. I run everything about the business. You run the field and you run the guys," thinking that he's not going to turn over the operations of the business just like that. And he was like, "Done." He pulls out a folder from his backpack there, slides it. We're at lunch. He slides it across the table. here's the business. I was like, great. Your whole business is in one. And I was like, all right, let me look through. And it was some random receipts, some invoices, a couple of contracts. I was like, this is not a business. He's like, that's why I need somebody to run it. And so I was like, all right, let me run through the paperwork a little bit, and spent about 48 hours digging into it. And I was just like, oh yeah, this guy is screwed if something doesn't change. And so I said, all right, I'll come do this, and we'll see. And then, I think probably I was 3 weeks in, and then it hit me. I was like, holy crap. I got to figure out how this business can run so I can get paid. There's no money here. There's absolutely no money. So it was balls to the walls for 18 months. I mean, it was system after system. It was tracking everything. So we got that. We went from in 18 months, we went from 6 guys to 18 guys out in the field, and went from not being profitable to profitable, got the owner compensated for, gave him a raise and all of it. But it was a crazy 18 months. And then for the next few years after that, just continued to grow that company. We added a shop and all of these other things. And then after about 4 years there, I just kind of had this epiphany. I was like, I think that what I'm doing for this company, I could do for other construction companies. Sure. And at the time I was like, well, I didn't even know business coaching was a thing. But I started researching that and put a few things out there, wrote my first book, The Paperwork Punch List, which is all about nerdy, job tracking and job costing and margin and markup and all of that kind of stuff. And this was like 5 years ago, and it just resonated with people. And then I got a couple of clients, and I said, oh, maybe this is the thing that I should do. And so I left that company as a COO and started this crazy thing. And then, a few years into that, then wrote Profit First for Contractors. And since then we have a business training academy that we've developed. And so we work with contractors and construction business owners all over the world, just nerding out on systems. We are a lot of coaches out there, nothing wrong with they're
Sure.
Sales and marketing guys. And that's certainly important. And we have an aspect of that in our coaching programs, but
sure,
we are systems nerds, man. We track everything, and the math of your business will set you free. That's what we talk about. So
you have to be.
Yeah.
I mean, those systems and processes, and you're right. So, we have another guy on, Tom Reber. He likes to come on, and
Tom's a great guy.
So Tom was my coach for a little bit, and for quite a while.
Yeah.
And I like Tom a lot, but like you said, Tom focuses on bringing sales in, because his point is accurate. Sales is the oxygen.
That's right.
So sales kind of keeps everything going.
You're not in business unless money's coming in. That's where you got to start.
But then you kind of get to the next step, right? Yep. So I see in the Facebook groups, like the Finch groups that I'm in, a lot of guys are booked out 6 months, 8 months. So sales coming in may not be their current issue, right? Like they seem to be pretty good at that. Now, we can have the conversation about, is the pricing accurate for where the market's going to be in 6 months? Probably not.
Yeah.
But the next problem you get to, or the next hurdle you get to, is the systems and processes. What do you do with it once it comes in?
Yeah, that's what we always say. Is like, hey, you got to have the sales. You're really not in business unless you got the sales coming in. So you need a certain volume of that. Great. Mm-hmm. But then you get a lot of that. And I talk to contractors all the time, say, oh, we want to grow. And what they talk about growth is that top line. Yeah. And I'm like, but the thing about businesses is you got to have that net profit at the bottom. How do we get from the sales to the net profit at the bottom? Because if you're not making a profit in business, you're not running a business, you're running a charity. So people say like, hey, I want to grow. I'm like, what are you talking about? Oh, I want to get to 1 million, 2 million, 5 million. I'm going to sell my company. I'm going to all this growth. And I'm like, well, are you making money right now? Because if you're not making money with what you're doing right now, then you're just going to grow more problems. And so we say like, yep, sales are important. Got to have that money coming in. But how do you get it to end up being the profit that you need? The only way you get from the top of the P&L to the bottom of the P&L is systems.
Yeah, that's right. Well, and so to your point about guys that want to do more business, and so I'll talk to guys like that. I'm like, okay, so you want to work a lot more. Like, well, no. Okay, so when you say you want to grow, what's the end result you want? And almost probably 99% of the time, it's money, right? I'd like to earn more, or I'd like more time away from the business with my family, or I'd like these other things. Okay, well, what if you could get there without doubling the size of your business, right? Like maybe there's somewhere in the middle that we could get you that, you get what you want, but also you're not, if you do $1 million business, that you're not trying to reach to 3 to 5,
Yeah, I would just say you got to look at the math to say like, oh, if you're a I don't know $500,000 business making 6% net profit, like would you rather be a $500,000 business making 6% net, which is not great by the way, but just as an
right.
example, and I'm doing math in my head, so
Sure.
that's why I keep the number simple. Or oh, I want to get to $1 million. Okay, would you rather have $1 million business making 3% net or $500,000 making 6? I take the $500,000 making 6
Yeah.
because you get to $1 million in that you probably quadruple the headache. The money's the same. The
Yeah.
dollar amount,
Right.
6% of 500,000 is the exact same as 3% in a million, but the headaches are quadrupled at least. So I'm like, let's get you profitable with where you're at first and
Yeah.
start, like what you were saying, what do you want out of the business? We call it the return. And I'm
Yep.
saying that the return that you want as the business owner, I
Yep.
need X amount of dollars. I want more time off, whatever. You design that first, or you state that first, and then you design your business to give you that return. And so we say, like, you got to have the return first, define what that is. Then you got to develop a menu of what is it that we sell or produce that matches the return that I want out of the business. So the return, develop our menu. From the menu, then we do the math, and the math has to work out to what we're offering on our menu. The menu leads to what I want out of the business. So we got the return, we got the menu, the math works out. Then the last thing is the systems or the people or the resources. We get people, systems, and resources that match the math. The math comes off of our menu, and the menu gives me exactly what I want for the business. And when you run through that, you realize, like, wait a minute, maybe I don't need $1 million business. I could do a $750,000 business with more time with my family, more profits, and have the right people in place, like, and and a higher percentage net. Like, do that first. You get that set up, then it's much easier to go from 750 to 1.5 because you're just plugging in what we call these units.
Yeah. Well, and I think one of the reasons too that people want to grow is I think we've been at a place, and this isn't new, but we've been in a place where everyone uses top line revenue as the yardstick, right? As to, like, there's a correlation they think between top line revenue and success, right? And success can be defined in a million different ways. But I think that's, when we're talking about, and again, this comes up in the Facebook groups, when we're talking about success, I really feel like a lot of folks use just that top line revenue as, hey, here's how successful I am. We did X amount of dollars this year. That's interesting. That means that you can process. Well, maybe it doesn't mean you can process that business, but you can bring in a significant amount of business. But if you did $50 million as a fence company, I mean, just killed it. But to your point, but you made a 3% net, you're underwater. Like, you're sunk at that point. Like, it's just not, the return does not justify the investment in terms of time, blood, sweat, and tears, that sort of stuff.
Yeah, a lot of times we'll ask clients when they say, "Yeah, okay, like what's the goal of the business? What are we looking for?" And they'll talk about profit, and I always say, "Well, what kind of profit are you talking about?" And they're like, "Well, what do you mean profit? Money?" And I'm like, "No, the way that we define it, people are familiar with KPIs, key performance indicators. Well, we changed it a little bit and call it LPIs, life profit indicators. And there's 3 areas of profit. One is money. Profit is profit, meaning money. Profit for your life is also time and energy. All 3 of those. So what are your LPIs? What are your life profit indicators? I'm getting the money that I need out of the business. I'm getting the time that I need in my business with my family or whatever else you choose to do. And then how much energy do I have to put out in order to get those things? And so KPIs are very important. But if you start with LPIs, life profit indicators, meaning I'm getting profit from my life, from time, energy, and money. And when all of those things are in line, again, from the return, the menu, the map, when all that stuff lines up, man, I'm telling you, people, they're just like, I never knew it could be like this.
Sure. Well, I think one of the places a lot of folks get stuck is and you talk about this a little bit in the book, is industry norms or industry standards,
Yeah.
right? And you see this again in a lot of these Facebook groups. There's guys and gals that say, "Hey, what's the going rate for X? Like, what's the market rate for 6-foot privacy fence?" Which, as we discussed before on the show, is a dangerous question. Like
Yeah.
there are fence guys that got to go to federal prison because of the Sherman Act. So, like, let's start there. But also, so me and another fence contractor had this conversation where we could be in the same city, we could do the same amount of revenue with the same team and the same generally sized business, and we would charge differently. Right?
Mm.
The 6-foot privacy fence would cost a different amount for me than it would from him, just simply because maybe our goals are different.
That's right.
But
That's right.
a lot of guys get wrapped up in, well, that's just the way it's always been done, or this is the way the industry does it. That's a bad place to be.
Yeah, and you gotta, it's very valuable to look outside the industry, say, okay, well, this is the way it's always done. And then just pick anybody. We'll say, look at Apple. I could go to Apple and I'm going to spend $2,000 on their baseline laptop, or
Yeah.
I could go to Dell and spend 800.
Sure.
Right? They're both computers. They both function, but what's the value associated with that, right? So, hey, I'm competing against this other fence guy in my town, right? And he's sticking to this industry standard, so I don't want to be higher than them. And I always tell people, like, well, wait a minute, hold on. What if you're better?
Yeah.
What if you're better than that? Don't you deserve to charge more? Yeah, but like, clients won't pay that. And I'm like, that's the easy solution. Just get better clients. Right. And I always ask, our clients, when we talk about raising prices or they're more expensive. And there's a lot of head trash around, like, I can't believe, I got to try and get 33% margin for example, when everybody else is doing 20%. I'm like, wait a minute. First of all, you don't know that everybody's doing 20%. Those guys are doing 20% or whatever. They're not profitable. So you're saying, I want to be like them and not be profitable. But I always even remove all of that and saying, like, hey, for, I don't know, somebody's been in business 3 years or 5 years. I always ask them, like, are you charging more now than you did when you started out? Oh yeah. We certainly, well, why? Well, we realized we were screwing up. We didn't know our numbers before. So that's one reason. What's another reason? Well, we got really great guys and gals in our company working for us. And those people cost more money than when it was just me and a truck running around. Okay. So you've got some additional expenses that make you better. That's why you charge more. Plus, like, superior products, customer service, all of these things. You're better than you were 3 years ago. And you figured out the math of your business. So you got to charge more. Okay, great. What if you are competing against somebody that's like you 3 years ago? Oh, I'm 20% more than this other person. You might don't get trapped in that, because you might be competing against yourself.
Yeah.
The person you were 3 years ago, and you got to just tell your customer when they say, like, oh, you're 30% higher, Joe. You're like, yeah, that's because we're better. We used to be priced like that. And let me tell you, if you had hired us then, here's what you would have experienced.
Yeah.
We didn't have good customer service. We didn't have somebody that was dedicated to answering the phones, and we didn't have relationships with material suppliers and our subcontractors. Plus, we've gone to industry events and education, and say, like, all this stuff is just better. And, like, hey, if price is important to you, then yeah, you're going to hire the other guy. But here's all of the things that you're not going to get.
Yep.
If you just pay 20% more, it's like, I always just say, like, gosh, I understand someone's always going to be cheaper, but we're not racing to the bottom. We're racing to the top. And we like to take our clients with us. And if that doesn't work for you, hey, we don't have to work for you. Good luck.
Sure. Well, we always have the price versus value conversation. Like, so what I hear you saying is this is a very price sensitive project. Is that right? So we're not really concerned with the value, just so long as we get a good price. And that usually gets a confused look, right? We say, well, here's the thing: is we know our value. Like, we have drilled down into the numbers. We know exactly where we need to be to build this fence in our example, right? And now, whoever we're being compared to, they're probably the expert in what value they're bringing, and they price it accordingly. Or maybe they're not. Maybe they are really underselling their value. I don't know, but we have to assume they at least have a good idea about what value they're bringing to the table. So if this is only a pricing consideration, then they might be the best option. But if we're talking about value, what value you're getting either before, during, or after the project, maybe that's a different conversation.
Yeah, I always compare it to like when someone comes in or walks onto your lot, right? Think about like if you're the Mercedes-Benz dealers of fence, right? And which I
Yep.
think a lot of people should have that mentality. Like imagine like you are the Mercedes-Benz dealer. Someone walks onto your lot and says, "Hey, I want to get a car." Great. Our cars start off at $50,000. Here's a base model. Or, oh gosh, no, I'm looking for a steering wheel and four wheels and something to get me from point A to point B, and I'm going to spend $15,000. Hey, that's no problem. What you need to do is go down to the Honda dealership where they sell used cars. Well, no, I want all of the features that you have here. Yeah, you're on a Mercedes lot here. We don't sell what you're looking for. I mean, what you're looking for, we sell that, but not at your price point. I'm sorry, we just don't have a car that's available for you. But you're not going to get the leather seats. You're not going to get all of the fancy stuff. That's what you get with the $50,000 car. If you want 15, go down to the used car lot, and those guys will be able to take care of you. That's not what we sell.
Yeah. Well, and understanding what you sell is a big part. What happened if that Mercedes dealer went on a Facebook group and said, "Hey, what should cars cost?"
Yeah.
Like a coupe with 4 doors, 4 wheels, and steering wheel. What's one of those things run? And the Honda dealer gets on and says, and this is an example, right? Nothing against Honda, but Honda dealer gets on and say, "Well, those should start at 25,000, 28,000, or whatever." The Mercedes guy's going, "Man, all right. Well, if that's what cars cost, that's what cars cost. We got to figure out how to make this Mercedes for $30,000." That's not going to work out very well.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And I always say too, like when you get your customers to like, some of them will make the leap to a Mercedes because you've painted a picture going like, I didn't realize that that's what I was getting, and I'm not going to get that anywhere else. Maybe I got to take the leap up there. And when they say like, "Okay, let me buy your Mercedes," then you sell them a Mercedes, and before they go off the lot, they get a key fob with their name on it. They get the Mercedes jack. They're part of the family now, right? They're the fence fam, right? Like there's a lot of value that goes into the emotional side of buying a premium product. And I always tell like contractors that are struggling with selling their value, I would say, you just got to, first of all, take some time off and go take a trip and just spend the extra money and fly first class. First class is, I travel a lot and it's ridiculously expensive, but you need to go fly first class because every plane I've been on in the past 2 years or whatever, first class is always booked, right? And you need to experience the kind of service that people are willing to pay for. And we're talking double, triple the price of a plane ticket, like a coach ticket. And all you're really getting, you're getting a little bit bigger seat, and you get a couple of, like, you're getting $10 worth of drinks if you want, right? Or like me that doesn't fly first class, I'm like, all right, get ready. You're American Airlines, you're losing money on this seat today. Like, keep bringing the snacks, keep bringing the drinks or whatever. I'm going to try to make this up. But if you think about it, triple the price, and it only costs them $50 more to service me. But like, you got to realize that your best customers out there, when they spend money on cars, on vacations, on their homes, they spend money on premium stuff. So be that premium contractor because it gives you a lot of freedom.
Well, yeah. And one thing we talk about too, so we have this conversation a lot on the channel. So I'm a big fan of 50% margin. Like I really think that's where contractors need to be to build for the future, right? So you're paying yourself for today, you're covering everything you need today, and you're also able to squirrel a little bit away. But part of this conversation, the asterisk here is you also have to bring that value.
That's right.
Right. You also have to bring the commensurate value. So in your example, if you had paid for the first class ticket, but got the normal seat and the normal snacks and normal drinks, you're thinking, this is a horrible experience.
Yeah.
I never want to fly first class again because I didn't get the value I had expected. Right. It's experience. There's a lot of it.
Yeah. And for everybody to get to that 50% margin, like when you run out the math and figure all that stuff out, there's always a point of like, okay, well, here's where we're at now. but here's where the math says that we need to be. I mean, some guys, if they get really fired up or they get really desperate, they'll make that leap right away because they've struggled for so long and they know they can deliver the value. But I would say, like, just identify where the gap is, and like even in the profit first system, it's like, all right, we've identified the gap. That's the most important thing. Now let's just do step one. We're not at 50% margin yet, but we can get to 30, and then the people that pay that sort of thing, like, what do they need to experience? How do they feel? What do they say? Where do we screw up? Where can we enhance it? Oh, we figured some things out, like you said, you got to stay ahead of it. When you check off a couple of those boxes and you're like, all right, we're at 35 or we're at 40. And then people start talking about this great experience that they got from a fence contractor that they never even expected. Right. So you got to stay ahead of that too. And then you'll get to, how do you get from, 20% margin to 50% margin? One step at a time. One client at a time. And every time you wow a client, you get them to say, hey, I need you to say great things about us. Mm-hmm. And by the way, we're raising our prices because we've figured out how to deliver better value. Don't tell people that you got a deal from us, but tell them about the experience that you got. And you will make raving fans customers for life when they're just like, hey, the guy I'm going to do this same fence for in a couple of months is going to pay $10,000 more. I just wanted to let you know I'm going to give him, as a reference, you're going to be our reference, but just don't tell him what you paid because we figured out even an even better way. And that customer, if you've wowed them, they're going to be like, absolutely, love to do that for you.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So in talking about raving fans, one of the things that 50% lets us do is it gives us a shock and awe or a surprise and delight fund. And the surprise and delight, this is an example I use a lot, is we were doing a fence in this lady's yard, and you could just tell we took down her old fence. It was time to be replaced. But when we took it down, we realized the backyard is her oasis, right? Like, this is her in-home retreat. So everything was manicured well. That she had a waterfall that when you look at this thing, she paid for it. Well, so the guys were building the fence, and I had missed this. So I had gone out and sold this project, and I missed this. But when the guys were there, they said, hey, did you know one of these pavers is cracked? Now, we didn't run the machine over. It's not like we broke it, but this thing is cracked. Now, we've got to run to Lowe's to pick up. They were short on some material. So we got to go to Lowe's to pick up some material. They have this paver. Can I pick one up? Of course. Like, what does a paver cost? $20, $30? Yes, you can. Yeah. Go ahead and do that, please. And this was the beginning of our surprise and delight so we replaced the paver. She called a few weeks later and she said, hey, so I didn't talk. She had called the front desk. Did you replace the paver? The front desk says, I don't know, but they put it in Slack, like our communications app. Yeah. And did somebody replace a paver at this customer's yard? Send her to me. Like, yep, you bet. And so I just picked up the phone. I was like, yeah, the guys were out there. They realized it was cracked. They didn't think they had done it, but they wanted to replace it because they could tell you really value your backyard. And she said, an older lady, she said, I've been trying to get my kids to replace that paver for years. She said she lives at home alone. Yeah. She had lost her husband, and she didn't have anyone that could replace that paver. And this was like the one thing in her backyard that just, she saw it every time she went out, and so the guys replaced the paver. It cost $20, $30. And now she's one of our raving fans, right? Yeah. She went into every Facebook group forever that asked about fencing contractors. And she said, you got to choose, Ozark Fence. They do great work. You can't pay for that. You cannot pay for that.
Yeah, you can't. Yeah, you can't buy that at, or you can, and it costs you $20-$30, right? I mean, but it's worth thousands and thousands of dollars.
Well, and if we were in that project on really tight margins, if we just didn't have a lot of room to move on that work, the answer might have been different. The answer might have been, guys, we don't have enough money for that. Build the fence. We're there to build the fence, right? And so that's one of the examples I use on the different things you can do when you understand your numbers and understand what profitability looks like. You've got some room to do, surprise and delight projects like that.
Yeah. And I would make, again, the way that we look at it is everything's a system. So we have this client and we're going to start the project and we're going to, do a project handoff or whatever the system is to go into production. We got the scope of work, just a checklist, right? We got to tear down the old fence. We got materials delivered. This is how we're going to approach it. Part of that checklist is that, hey, by the way, before we kick this thing off, guys, anybody got ideas about surprise and delight? That's one of the scope items that we do for our customers. They don't know about it. We do.
Sure.
It's an internal system. And before we get into this project, we need to have some ideas for surprise and delight. And you make that part of the job of your crews. Like, just like installing this, checking that, doing quality control. Be like, hey guys, we did the work, but nobody's done the surprise and delight. We failed. Like, it's just as important as like wrapping up and closing out the project. You make that a system. And the great thing about that with your employees, most employees are not engaged at that level with their work.
Right.
But you like, that is something that you want to retain great employees and attract other employees. They're going to start talking about like, well, like we got this weird thing that Joe makes us do. It's one actually the best aspects of the job, because the job's hard anyway. You know, we're out in the heat, we're out in the weather, whatever. But like, one of the best things is like, we have to figure out, it's part of our jobs to surprise and delight. And on those hot days, those cold days, like, it's a lot easier to say, oh, today's the day we're doing shock and awe, surprise and delight. This is when we're going to fix the paver. This is when we're going to do whatever. And
absolutely,
you will attract other employees for something, you know, something like that. It's a cultural thing.
It is. Bingo. It's a cultural thing. That's right. And that's, so one of our missions is to better our community, right? One of the missions of Ozark Fence is to leave our community better than we found it. Right. And this is a direct tie-in. Like, this is a physical manifestation of that mission, is we can leave this yard. Now, when we build the fence, it's obviously going to be nicer than we found it, but we could make it a little bit better, you know, via whatever it is that they find in these yards. Now, some of the yards, they don't find things, right? Like, some of the yards, it's just not readily apparent, but when they do, they talk about it.
Oh yeah.
Right? They come back and they're like, hey, got another one. Let me tell you about what happened. And we go through this story. So it's just as much for the clients as it is for our team members that get to participate in something like that as well.
Yeah. And you have to understand that, like, especially as a professional, you might have some of these ideas that like you've done 50 times. And so it's like kind of like old hat for you. You got to realize, like, you do this all the time. You're a professional, but that thing, I don't know, whatever it is, maybe you have a little nameplate made up that put on the fence. It tells a little story, or I don't know, whatever it is. But like, internally, you're like, oh, we didn't have any really great ideas. Let's go to the well and do that one, because customers always love it. You got to realize that's the first time they've ever experienced it. Right. Yeah. It's normal for us, but we got to make sure that it's as if it is the first time for the customer. So we need to treat it like that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, and it's like, to your point, it's a cultural thing, in which culture in businesses, what we're finding is more important now than it has ever been.
Yeah.
You know, the workforce pool has shrunk. And there are just not as many people in the workforce for whatever reason.
Yeah.
Like, we're not here to talk about why. We're just here to address the issue of there's less people in the workforce. So by having a culture and by having a place where people would want to work, they tell others, right? So right now we're in the middle of another hiring round, and we started with our team members here. So, hey, who do you know? Now look around. And so we did look around the room, look at everybody here. Everybody's a rock star. Yes. I think we can all agree on that. We need more rock stars. Who do you know that looks like these people? And I'm not talking about physical, but who do you know who's a rock star that would fit into this room? We need to meet them. We need them here, because this was during a larger strategy meeting, right? But pointed at the board because we need to grow. Like, and we're not growing for the sake of growing, but we've got some plans. We want to do better for our community, for our legacy and the whole thing. But to do that, we've got to have team members. Who do you know?
Yeah.
And because of the culture, now they'll go talking to their friends. They'll say, hey, I know you're working at XYZ, but let me tell you about where I work. We do this, we do that, we do the other. You at least need to come in. Like, he's not going to make you sit through a sales pitch. He just wants to meet you. But I think if you came in and you talked to him and you took a walk around, I think you'd get it. Yeah.
And I would say most people hate their jobs. Like, you can look up studies from like Gallup that they do this study called workforce engagement. Like 67% of all workers in the United States, and it goes across all industries, are what they call disengaged employees. And as tough as it is right now for anybody to do hiring, I'd say the short, not even the shortcut, the fast forward button on hiring new people is through your existing people. And if you don't have existing people saying good things about working there when you're not in the room, right? That's an issue. So I always say, like, hey, get the team together, say, hey, what do you like about working here? Great, let's make a list. What do you not like about working here? And that's scary for a lot of owners if they haven't
Sure.
created a culture or a safe place. But it's like, all right, here's what we're going to do. We're going to work on the things that aren't good here. And in the meantime, I need everybody here to go out into the world, into your church, your community, your circle of friends, and just start talking about the good stuff. Because there's somebody that is sitting in an office, staring at a computer, going like, man, did I get the wrong education? Man, did I get the wrong job? I'd love to be outside. And someone comes in and says like, hey, by the way, you want to get out from behind a desk. You want to be a project manager. You want to be an estimator. You want to be a lead person on the. Hey, I get it. You don't have any skills. Don't worry. We can teach you the skills, but we're looking for rock stars, people that have good attitudes and a good culture and have got a future. And you're going to find people will leave their job to do something else if they know they have a path.
Well, one thing we found too is that rock stars like to work with rock stars, right? So if you put a rock star in with the B team, they're going to be really unhappy because they're going to be operating at a high level, but they'll be surrounded by those that aren't, for better or worse, and they're not going to enjoy it. So that's kind of one of our selling propositions too, is you get to come work for a team of rock stars. And listen, this is going to be a 30-day trial, but not in the way you think. Like the 30-day trial is usually you'll work for me and then I'll let you know if I want to keep you. We flip that around. Like I give you a 30-day, you're trying me out for 30 days. I want you to meet all the people. I want you to see our systems. I want you to see the facility and how we do things. And in 30 days, I would love it if you'd be willing to stay on. How's that sound? And that's enough of a different way of thinking that it works. And that's just, it gets back to culture.
Yeah.
Right. Is that we've built a culture that where we're completely comfortable with that. Like I encourage that. Like, hey, come try us out. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. No harm, no foul.
Yeah. And that's the other thing you have to realize about rock stars too, is you got to stay ahead of them.
Yeah.
Because they'll come in and they'll do their rock star stuff. And if you don't stay ahead of them, they'll leave. And sometimes rock stars just leave because rock stars leave. Like but people, they always, they'll always say, well, like, what if I get these people in and I hire them and then I train them and they perform really well and then they leave. And I'm like, what if you get really bad people, you don't train them and they stay?
Right. Yeah.
So, because if you're known, if Ozark Fencing is known at creating rock stars in your community, and maybe, obviously there's we're not going to train our competition. There's some legal things that you can do to protect yourself, but like rock star is going to rock star, man. Like, but if you're known as like, if I spend 2 or 3 years with Joe's company and it leads to other opportunities, you're never going to, people are going to come find you because they're going to be like, if the path to greatness goes through Ozark Fencing, people are just going to line up.
Well, and that, so you hit on something there about training your competition. The way I look at it is if I bring someone on who has no idea about fencing, or if they do, and we teach them our way and our process and the whole thing, and then they leave and they start their own business or they go work for someone else and they put me out of business, that's my fault.
Yeah.
Right. If you can train someone and they can leave and armed with an up, and then they put you out of business, like you've done something seriously wrong. Like they capitalized on something that you're not doing correctly. And is that their fault or your fault? Like, I think that problem sits at home.
Well, that's why I was also tell you need to train all your employees from the highest level down to even entry level, how the business works. Because most people, and this like gets into where people will leave companies and they go right into the craftsman cycle that I described in my book, where they're like, hey, you know what? I'm making $25 an hour. This stuff, I'm doing a little side work. My mother-in-law hired me to do her fence and I was able to, charge $30 an hour. Man, I'm in business. I should do this on my own. And then they leave. I say, teach all your people exactly how to read a profit and loss statement works. So you're just like, hey, by the way, you're getting paid, I don't know, $25 an hour or whatever here. The way business works is like, in order to be profitable, every hour you got to charge $100 an hour, because let me show you how difficult it is. And things like workers' compensation and all of the training and all the development. And you don't even know what quarterly taxes are. And when you got to pay an attorney to look over your contract, all that kind of stuff. You see, I'm going to expose you to all of this. So before you go out on your own, you can be like, well, I think I can make $50 an hour, but like I got to start charging $100. Maybe I'll just settle in here and be a better employee here and ride this cultural gravy train, and it'll take me to where I want to go. Cause gosh, I don't want to jump out there and have to then I'm wearing all the hats. But most guys will do that. They'll say like, oh, I could go start my own business. And they look at a few dollars and then they drop into what I describe in the book in the craftsman cycle. And then that's a brutal way to start a business.
Shawn, I think that is a great segue into like what you're talking about in the book as far as the craftsman cycle. Can you describe that? What is the craftsman cycle?
Yeah. So the craftsman cycle, there's 4 phases that are on constant repeat. And so in general, the 4 phases are price work, get work, produce work, and find work. So we start with pricing work. And that is a lot of folks, when they start their companies, they start maybe some side jobs, or they think they've got the money figured out. And so they go out and they start pricing work. But they're not really aware of the value they provide and all of the other expenses that come in with running a business. So when we say the price work, they're really guessing at work. Now, most of these business owners, these new business owners, do great work, high quality work. They know, like, we're not even talking about like the people that rip people off. I'm talking about high quality craftspeople that know their trade, and they go out and they start pricing work, but they don't understand what they need to charge for the value of it. So they're really guessing at the work. So when you do high quality work and you're priced too low, what happens? You get a lot of work, and that accelerates because you're like, oh my gosh, I keep getting all this work. Everything I price, I get. And they're just like, man, I'm in business. And you start thinking about the numbers and you're like, man, I'm going to buy a property in Jamaica here before the end of the year because I'm pricing work and I'm getting all of this work. Then the 3rd phase kicks in. Eventually, you have to go produce the work, right? That's where the money starts flying out the door. And you realize, oh my gosh, I just got hit with a tax bill. I haven't paid myself in a few weeks because, money's been tight or whatever, but then I got to go sell the next job, but I got more work. It's all coming in, but now I got to go produce work. And so I'm not selling as much, or I'm certainly not working on the business because I'm in this production mode. And then cash runs out and time runs out. So you get desperate, and it goes into the 4th phase saying like, oh crap, I've run out of money, but I still got project left. So what do? I got to go find more work, right? So we drop our prices. We go on, we don't have a marketing strategy in place. So we go on word of mouth and all of this kind of stuff. So we go out and find more work, and our time is eliminated, and we're acting out of desperation. So what do? We price more work. Maybe we raise our prices a little bit but it's still not correct. But then we price that work and we get it. And we don't like to hear no, because we think like we got to hear yes. It's the sales and market, the sales part. Hey, I heard Shawn say, business starts where the money comes in. So let me go get more work, but it's still not priced properly. Time is limited. And then it's price work, get work, produce work, find work. And that cycle repeats and repeats until one day it happens. You get COVID and you can't work for a while. One of your employees because you were just like, you were hiring people or bringing in subs and they weren't really quality. And now you got to redo work, right? That money is gone. And you got clients that are pissed off. And the way you were finding work before, where clients were kind of saying some good things about you, now clients are starting to say bad things about, and it all comes crumbling down. And you're just like, I can't figure it out. The industry sucks. You're supposed to be charging 20% markup on it, but that's not enough. I don't know. And then you start complaining, and then everybody here is like, don't go into construction. You can't make any money. And it's because of the craftsman cycle.
Yeah, right. Well, the example we use, so, and you mentioned this in your book, 3 to 5 years is the typical life cycle of a new business. And the reason being, it takes about 3 years to burn through the savings. And then the significant other at home is upset because bills are coming in. They can't get paid. It's this time of year, and they can't go get the presents they want to get. The significant other's upset and saying, you are gone 80 hours a week. You're never home, and there's no money in the bank consistently. You got to go. like there needs to be a change. Like I know you had fun running this business for a while, but we need some stability in our life. So you're done. You need to go find work somewhere else. That's typically the story. Unfortunately, what happened though is they've already taken deposits on work, right? So they're selling out 4 or 5 months into the future. So they've taken these deposits and there's nothing to give back. The bank account's empty. So they say, I mean, where would you like the money to come from? It's not here. I'm sorry. And that story in particular is pretty common in the fencing, that you hear about it once a year, once every other year, about a fence company that goes out of business and they've taken all these deposits. And where this leads is now the news is running a story that you shouldn't give contractors deposits because they could take your money.
Yeah.
Wait a minute. Like, what are you lumping all of us into this story for? Like, no, I charge accordingly so that we are in business next, hopefully the next 55 years.
That's right.
But I think that story boils down into knowing your numbers, and which is what you go into in the book.
Yeah, and that's where we say, okay, the way that you break out of the craftsman cycle is you have to eventually, whether you do it by choice earlier on in your business, and even if you've been in business 20 years, you're going to face your financials eventually. Either they're going to come and run you over, meaning like there's no money in the bank account, we've sold these projects, we have deposits, but there's no money there. Guess what? You're going to face those financials, and a CPA or an attorney is going to dig into those, and it's going to cost you a lot more. It's going to cost you a lot more money to face the financials. Or you could face the financials right now and put a simple system in place, and that's what we show you and give to you in Profit First for Contractors. So we say, okay, listen, we're going to face your financials right now, and we're going to make it really simple without even crunching any numbers. To say you are in business to make a profit. All right. So if you're not making a profit, you're running a charity. So just make the decision. Are we running a charity or do we want to run a business? All right, cool. If we're going to run a business, then we're going to make a profit. And there's nothing wrong, by the way, with making a profit. In fact, you should be making a monster profit, because with a monster profit, then you get to choose whatever you want to do. And most people, I would say this, and put money behind this, is most people in the construction industry are good people.
Yeah.
Right. They do. Sometimes good people do stupid things when they get desperate because they don't have any money. But if you're making a monster profit and you're a good person, that profit is going to accelerate your goodness already, which means, you know what? We can pay our people better. We can set up, we've got charities that we give to. We can go improve the community. The only way that you can do that, is with a profit. And then we have I hear this all the time, and people will say, well, Shawn, I'm not really in it for the money. Well, you should be. And when people say I'm not really in it for the money, I say it's probably because you've never made any. So here, go make a bunch of it. And if you're not in it for the money, go make a bunch of it and then give it all away. You'll improve your family. You'll improve your community. You'll improve your employees. You'll end up at the same place. I got no money, but I gave it all away. Yeah. And you won't be able to outrun a business like that. You know what I'm saying? Because people will just come to you if you are that effective, but you don't make that profit in the first place. You never get invited into being that person for your family, for your employees, and for your community. But so back to the Profit First system.
Yeah.
All right. I think I hammered that. You got to make a profit. I don't know what the profit is. I don't know my numbers. All right. Here's what you do. And anybody that's listening or watching this right now, you can go on Monday, go set up a profit account at your bank. This isn't even getting into the whole details of the rest of the system. Go set up a profit account in your bank, and whatever is in the bank balance right now, move 1% over to the profit account, and then just don't touch it. And if you put money in that bank account and don't touch it, guess what? It'll be there at the end of the first quarter. And do it and keep doing it for every dollar that comes in. We're just taking 1%. And that's where we say, like, if you read the book, we get into what your percentages should be based on your size of company and all that kind of stuff. But the starting point is 1%. And the reason is you're not going to miss it. If you got $1,000 in the bank, you're going to go put $100 in the profit account. You can run your business off the $990 that's left. If it's $10,000 in the bank, on Monday morning, go put $1,000 in your profit account and don't touch it. You'll run your business off the $9,000 that's left. You're not gonna miss it, because the start of your financials is not the starting point. Eventually, we'll have to crunch the numbers. the key to your financial success and cash flow and profit management has to do more with your human behavior and our habits than it does finances. And so I'll use this example before we get into any more details about the profit first system. So people say, "Oh, no, it's not too simple," or "That's too simple. It's not going to work." I'm saying it's the simplicity of the system that we describe in the book that makes it so effective. So I'll ask you, Joe, did you brush your teeth this morning?
Sure did.
All right. Now, what happens if you go into the bathroom? My guess is you went in the bathroom this morning to brush your teeth, just squeeze the tube of toothpaste and went on with your day, right?
Yep.
Okay. What happens when you go into the bathroom, say tomorrow or next week or whatever, and you're out of toothpaste? What do you do?
Oh, gotta get some more. Well, I squeeze it.
Yeah,
first.
That's right. Most people
Okay.
say, "Oh, I go get more toothpaste." No, you do not. Right? You squeeze it. Right?
Good
So
call.
are you I find that there are different kinds of people. There are squeezers. there are rollers. You roll it up from the end. Right? And I always call myself like a MacGyver because I've taken my pocket knife and slid it down, slid it open and stuck my toothbrush in there. All right. So that amount of toothpaste that you get out on those days, is it more or less than what you normally do when you got a full tube of toothpaste?
Just the same.
It's usually less because it's, right? We're just getting a little bit more on the toothbrush.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
Right. But that's enough to get by for the day.
Sure.
So here's the mental thing that happens to say, wait a minute. If that's all that it takes to get by, that little amount, why do I squeeze so much out when the toothpaste tube is full? And here's what it is. It's a psychological phenomenon called Parkinson's law, right? Full tube of toothpaste, we just squeeze and go. Don't even pay attention because we got a full tube of toothpaste, right? But when we run out of toothpaste, two things happen. We get innovative, we smash, we cut, we roll, and we get frugal. We get by on much less. And we all do it. It's normal behavior. And some people out there go, "No, I never do that. I always go get a full tube." I'm like, well, you do it with the shampoo bottle or you do it with the roll of toilet paper, but like we don't need to go there with that, right? It's just the way that we're wired. So think about your bank account. We got money in a bank account, one bank account, full tube of toothpaste. Oh, we got those deposits in. We got paid. Ends up, oh, I got money. Let's just squeeze the bank account and go. And we spend. Right? We buy tools, we pay our employees, whatever we need to do. But in the profit first system, what we want to do is force ourselves to take, instead of having one tube of toothpaste or one bank account, we split up and intentionally make the bank account smaller. One bank account for profit.
Yeah.
When we make a profit, what happens? When you make a profit, what's the government going to want?
Oh, yeah. They take the tax out of it.
Right. So we got a profit account. We better have a tax account, right?
Yeah.
Next, we need to make sure that we pay the most important employee. And this is, I know, Joe, I know you got great people working for you.
Yeah.
But you may not be comfortable saying this. Who's the most important employee?
Yeah, I know where you're going with this. The person that comes in when they're still sick, when they're not feeling good, when
the owner, right? So we got to make sure. And most people that are watching this, we've all skipped paying ourselves and paid everybody else. But without you, the business doesn't exist. So the owners need to be compensated for the work they're doing in the business. So that's another account. We call it owner's comp account. So we've got profit, we've got tax, and we've got the most important employee taken care of, because without you, the business is, not going to exist. All right. The last thing is what we call OpEx. That's just the money to pay all the bills and operate the business. Those four accounts are we got a fifth one called income. So we can we watch where the money comes in. Right. But it's that idea of that smaller tube of toothpaste, so that when I drop into those and I can see where the money is, I can see, like, I got, I don't know, $10,000 in the profit account. That's the reason I'm in business. But cash flow is tight. It's not the profit that's draining it. It's the way you're operating your business. So when you look at that, we need to get frugal and we need to get innovative. And so, the frugality means, like, maybe there's a better way to do production. Maybe we need to increase our margins by increasing our prices or whatever that is. And then being innovative sometimes meaning, like, maybe we need a faster way to get money coming. The money's there. It's just not coming in fast enough to keep it. So we go change our contracts, or we meet with we get innovative and we think creatively about how can we get that money in. Or, some people, you just need to get, Guido with the baseball bat to go around and, bust some kneecaps to get your clients to pay you for the work that you've already done. Right. But that's the basis of the profit first system. And it starts with human behavior and psychology more than financials. Now, in order to make all of the percentages work out where you need to be for a certain, that's where we get into the book. You've got to face the financials and crunch the numbers, but you don't have to have a perfect system. You don't have to have your books in order to start. Just start with the profit account, 1%, and do that for a few months. And then when you get comfortable, you're not going to miss that 1%. Then you bump it up to 2%, and you do that for a few months. And then you're going to bump it up to 3%, and you're going to see the other areas. Are you not paying yourself? That's a problem. We need to go work on that. How can I pay myself more? Probably relates to your prices or the way that cash is coming in.
Sure.
And so what we want to look at is profit. We got profit. We're profitable in the business. And it doesn't take a financial statement or a CPA to tell you, because I got money in the bank and I'm not going to touch it.
Yep.
If I can pay all my bills at the end of the quarter, at the end of the year, it's right there. And then when you start working on the profit, got to stick some money in, beside for taxes. And it works. Eventually, you're going to have to crunch the numbers, figure out what your markup needs to be to get your margin and do all that. But you don't have to have any of that stuff figured out in order to start.
No, and you made a point in the book also where, to the effect of, you could also, when we're talking about getting your prices where they need to be, that also can apply to pricing, right? So these are fictitious numbers. I'm not telling you what to charge for fence, but if you charge random number $50 a foot for fence, for whatever kind of fence, could you charge 52 or 53? Yeah, sure. I mean, that's not noticeable, right? So
That's right.
kind of the same theory applies and we've talked about this in the beginning so the industry norm in fencing is 33%, right? Gross profit, 33%, because it's a 1.5 multiple. It's really easy. Take my cost, 1.5, done. So, but could it be 1.6? Could it be 1.7? Like you can take easy, digestible steps to get towards there. Yeah. And know that, hey, when I increase my price by X, I can also increase the profit account by Y, right?
That's
These
right.
two things are related. And that's, so let me give you guys kind of my experience. So I actually read Shawn's book, or I listened to it in 2019, mid 2019, early 2019. This is a great, and let me tell you why. So I know this may shock you guys. You may not be ready for this. I don't have an accounting degree. I know. Shawn was surprised when I told him that before the live. He said,
I know. Hey, I wrote a financial book and I still don't know how to read a cash flow statement. So there you go.
So let me tell you how I was running the business is I would look at my bank account. Money there? Yeah. Actually, more money in there than the last time I looked at it. Business is good.
Yeah.
And then it came to taxes. For me, there was a tax bill and it was significant. We had a good year, right? So pause. Taxes aren't bad, right? Taxes are an indication you had a pretty good year. No one's ever paid a ton of taxes when they lost a bunch of money, right? Like that. Maybe. Again, that's a fence guy guessing at this, but for one reason or another, we had a good year. That's the reason we had a tax bill. And now all of a sudden that bank account got drained, right? And we had payroll coming up, had to make payroll. And I knew I had a material order I had to make. And then all of a sudden I was like, whoa, where did the money go? Right. I know for a fact the last time I checked this bank account, there was money in there. I know it was. And we use QuickBooks, right? And I'm pretty proficient at, so I'd start clicking around, like, where did it go? Where did it go? It's like, oh, I've been looking at this wrong. And I wish I could remember, Shawn, what got your podcast or your audiobook into my phone, like, because I want to make that happen for more people. But so I was listening to this and I was like, oh, this is exactly right. So I still look at my bank accounts, right? So I have digital banking. I just pull it up in the morning and there's an at a glance view of exactly how the business is doing. Yep. I know how much is in the payroll account. I know how much is in the OPEX account. I know how much is everywhere, right? And when the tax bill comes, like magic, there's money in the tax account, right? And we pay it. Now, you go on in the book to say, well, so what happens if there's extra money in the tax account? It's like found money, right?
That's what I say in any of the counts.
Right.
In any of the counts, if there's leftover money there after we've paid the bills from that period, or let's just take it on a yearly basis, like, oh, we paid our tax bill, there's money left over in the tax account. Well, what do we do with it? You move it over to profit, because that's exactly what it is. Yep. We operated the business, we paid all of our bills, we paid the owner, we paid our taxes, and there's money left over. That's called profit.
That's profit.
Right?
That's profit. Well, so we did something, we actually just did this last week. We had extra money in the payroll account. Like, we have a threshold where we know the payroll account needs to set at the end of this year. We had extra money in the payroll account. So let me tell you how happy everyone was to get a surprise bonus right before Christmas.
Yeah, that's right. And
they loved it. My business didn't feel it, right? Like, that money was already in the payroll account. It wasn't needed to pay for a material order. It wasn't needed to pay for equipment. It was sitting there, just waiting patiently.
Yeah.
And then we dispersed it out for the employees, and it was a win-win, let me tell you.
Yeah. And I can tell people, like, right now, the business owners that maybe they're thinking, like, I know I'm not paying myself enough. And I'm just going to guess that depending on the size of your business, these are just some numbers that I find is like, oh, you're paying yourself between 60, maybe 60,000, maybe 80,000. But, like, you couldn't hire somebody to do everything that, you probably, if you really looked at the compensation, you need to be making 120, 150, like, on, as a salary. This is outside of profits, but whatever it is, let's just say you ran the numbers. And here's just one of the very simple things that you can do without doing a deep financial analysis. Let's just say that you said whatever you paid yourself in 2021, you divide that number by your total revenue. Let's say that came up to 8%. Okay, so 8%, every dollar that comes into the business, 8% is dedicated or goes into the owner's compensation account. All right, every time we get a check, 8% goes into that account, and then we pay the owner out of that. Now the owner's like, I wonder, you know what? I need to give myself a raise. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to prove it in the bank accounts first. I'm going to put 9% into the owner's compensation account, but I'm only going to pull out my 8%. So you're going to have money that builds up in the owner's compensation account, a little slush fund there. And after 3 or 6 months, when you're like, wait a minute, cash flow isn't tight in other areas or whatever, guess what? I can now pay myself 9% of every dollar that comes into the business. And then you just do it again and say, I'm going to pay myself 9%. That's what's coming out. And I'm going to put 10% into the owner's comp. Oh, at 10%, cash flow gets a little tight. The OpEx account is a little bit low. Let me hit the pause button on this and keep the 9%. And then go figure out what it is in the operation side of the business that will generate more money. And you can do it the same thing for profit, for tax, whatever it is. It is. People are saying that, Shawn, it can't be that simple. It is, because like you were saying before, profit first starts with taking a bad habit, checking the bank account. One bank account, I got money. Okay, I can make payroll. I can go spend it. I can squeeze that tube of toothpaste, right? But the profit first system just splits it up, makes it simple, and we're taking this habit, this behavior of checking the bank account, which is a really bad way to run a business. Look at the bank account and react to the balance. Now we're saying that same habit, check the bank account, but instead of a bad habit of reacting, we know exactly what's going on in the business, and we can innovate, get frugal, we can operate the business differently.
Well, and let me give a real world example of how we're using profit first. So we're creating another account. We're splitting off the profit account into a charitable foundation account, right? And so, because here's the thing about charitable giving. Once you give to one organization, word spreads. There's a bird call that goes out.
Yeah.
That Ozark Fence is into giving money to charitable foundations. Now, if there's one thing that I become known for, I'm perfectly good with that one. However, it's like a revolving door. There's a joke that if any organization needs a little bit of money, all they need to do is come knock on Ozark Fence's door and Joe will write a check. Right.
Yeah.
So, and I have a pretty good handle on the numbers. So I have an idea what we can give, but by having a charitable foundation account, by having a fund for that, I can at a glance know, is this the right time or is it not? right? And that's really, for me, that is the benefit here. There are others, but the main benefit is at a glance, I know exactly how each area of the business is running, right? If if the payroll account dips, that's a warning sign, right? Like,
Yeah.
have we brought on extra employees, but sometimes that happens and sales just haven't caught up yet.
Yeah.
Okay. But it's a warning. But at least I heard the warning, I saw it and I evaluated it. It's okay. Right. But
Yeah.
it's an early warning system.
Yeah.
Right. So for me, that's what it is for
Yeah,
sure.
and I tell folks like, all right, if Joe and I had the exact same business, let's just
Mhm.
imagine that we're doing exact same revenues, exact same profits, and all of that kind of stuff. Um, the charitable donation part of it. Let's say that I am not a charitable business. We don't give a dime away,
Sure.
right? We keep it all for ourselves in profit, right? So our numbers are all the same. Our profit account, let's say, is 10%. That's what our company does, and we do no charity. Well, Joe's business does 3% in charity, and we're doing the same business. That means his profit account is 7%,
Right.
right? Because on the business side of it, we're in competition. We're doing exactly the same. The profit that's generated, that's like, do whatever you want to with it. It
Mhm.
goes to in my selfish company. It all comes to me, right? But Joe's got
Sure.
a bigger heart and a better mindset about how the world works. And he says, okay, we're the same business, and charitable things get funded from the profit account. But then when, like you said, when you're known for that and we're competing against stuff, then you might be able to charge more because you're better known in the community, right?
Sure.
So then your profit account goes to 10%, and you have a charitable at 3% because you have a differentiating factor that you're known for. But see, people will try to work in, oh, well, we want to give the money away. The money that you give away comes from the profit when all the
Yeah.
bills are paid. Otherwise, you
Mhm.
give money away before you've made it. You are running it. You are the charity, right?
Right. 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 Yeah. Except for you don't get to go ask other people for money for
That's right.
charitable
That's right.
contributions. But yeah, so you know, and here's I get one thing I heard in that, Sean, too. An important note is these numbers are always moving, right? Well, maybe
Always.
not always moving, but we're always evaluating them, right? So payroll is at X. Does it need to be there? So at the end of this year, we had a big number at the end for payroll. So we have strategy team meetings, every executive board strategy meetings every quarter. So next quarter, that's going to come up. Hey, do we want to keep it there? Probably, because it felt really nice being able to give Christmas bonuses. But we know, okay, if it's at random numbers, if it's at 33%, could it be 32%? And can we allocate that 1% somewhere else? Like, sure. But we can have that conversation, right? If the OPEX account is constantly drained, we probably need to bump that percentage because there's something now. We also need to look and see what's in there that's causing an excess drain.
That's right.
But it gives you early warning,
Yeah.
and it lets you move it lets you move those numbers around too.
Yeah, and you also have to realize that you start with the percentages first because they're easy to or they're simple to calculate, and they
Mhm.
kind of give you the high level stuff, right?
Yeah,
But let's say that you do this quarterly analysis and you're at 33% for OPEX, or whatever the number needs to be.
sure.
Let's say 60%, and you say like, oh, wait a minute, but we've improved the way that we operate the business. Then
Mhm.
60% of a bigger number, meaning the revenue's gone up because we're doing the same amount of work. We're
Yep.
selling it maybe we're even selling it at the same price, but we're more efficient, right? That's going to put more dollars into your profit account in your OPEX account based on the percentage, right? So then you can say, when you operate more efficiently, you can say, oh, wait a minute, we only need X amount of dollars. And that X amount of dollars is now 59% of what
Yeah.
the revenue is now. So sometimes you can be like, yeah, we're at, let's say, 80% OPEX, and we need to get down to 70%. People are like, oh, we got to cut expenses. I was like, no. You're not necessarily cutting expenses. You're reducing the percentage. The easiest way to do that, it's a percentage based. That denominator is the income. We're
Yep.
actually doing the same amount of work, but we're making more money doing it will lower your percentage. So people, when they say, hey, you got to cut expenses, they're thinking like, oh man, we got to lay people off. I'm like, no, get them to produce more or charge
Right.
more for the value that's out there. And like you had said, like, hey, you know what? $50 a lineal foot or whatever, we're going to go to 53. That's 5.5% more. There's your like, and if somebody's, I don't know, I always say this like, hey, it's a $20,000 fence, 10% more is 22,000. Listen, if they ain't going to buy from you at 22,000, they were never going to buy from you at 20,000.
Right.
Right. And so that's where it gets back into something. And when you see these laid out in the bank account and you're visiting them monthly, quarterly, you're like, hey team, let's go make a 1% change here. Who's got an idea how we can bump this? Oh, you know what? The goal is $50,000 more in this account, which will drop this percentage down by 1% or 2% or whatever. Anybody got any ideas? And then you engage your employees because they're the ones out there doing the work.
Yeah.
And they're the ones that are going to move the needle. They just need to know.
Absolutely. One thing we found too that it helps us with is forecasting. So we know, so in our grand plan, that in our strategy, in our 5-year plan, we want to grow. Now, the reason we want to grow is because we have identified there's some opportunity here, right? In this market, I believe there's some opportunity. Someone's going to take advantage of it. Might as well be us, right? So, but we say by doing this, we'll increase revenue by X. Now, our payroll percentage tells us that's going to increase our payroll by this. So can we produce this much revenue with this much additional payroll? We'll need to bring on this many people. They'll roughly get paid this. Like you can kind of back of the napkin run your numbers out a little bit better too, knowing your percentages.
Oh yeah, absolutely. That's why I say start with the percentages. The percentages lead to dollars. Then you reverse engineer the dollars to what you need to do. So, when you get down to the dollars and you start reverse engineering, you say, okay, in order to increase by this percentage, it actually needs these many dollars. We've got to hire new people to do this. And if we have new people producing more work, it's going to produce, or we need more dollars coming in. So it's like, all right, now we start looking at our leads and our closing rate and say, okay, I got to hire this person now, but are our leads and our prospects and our conversion rates leading to the revenue that's going to support this additional team? And you never always have it that like, you got to pull the trigger, right? You can't go sell all the work and then be like, all right, 3 months from now, we're going to need another crew. So 2 months and 29 days from now, I'll hire the crew, throw them out in the field when the money's there. No, you got to realize like right now, the next quarter, guess what? OpEx is going to be tight, or we're going to move some money out of the profit account, right? And we're going to set it over into this other account called onboarding the next crew.
Yep.
Because that's what's going to take before they're productive. But I got to hire 3 months from now, because 6 months from now, or I got to start hiring now, 3 months of training. So 6 months when that work that's priced at a higher rate, we've got our surprise and delight already figured out. It's cost more money, but we're going to wow these people 6 months from now. I need them making money day one on that job. The only way they do that is I got to get them in now and start training them.
Right. Absolutely. So where was I going with this? So this has been known to happen to me, Shawn. I go down rabbit holes and then we just kind of figure out where we're headed.
Me too.
But so the percentages. So I did a video where basically it was you need to know your numbers, because in the context of this video was about discounts, right? So now we're also having a conversation right now that we shouldn't discount, we should offer upgrades. Completely different conversation. But when I shot this video, it was knowing your numbers lets you know how much you can afford to discount, right? So when a customer comes to you and says, Joe, this fence is $10,000. One of your competitors says they can do it for $8,000. Can you give me that discount? No, I can't, because the percentages tell me that I don't have that much in this. Like there's not, because I can't pay the government less. That is not an option, right? I can't pay my suppliers any less. I've already negotiated my rates. I can't pay my guys any less, or my gals any less, because we've already negotiated their rates. So the only person that can sacrifice here is me. And I know now that this is a percentage. Now, and then that's a personal choice of whether you decide that you want to play that game. but within a couple moments where your number's at, right?
Yeah.
So if you're at 10% profit, I can't meet $8,000. I mean, $10,000. If this project goes exactly right, if nothing goes wrong, it gets done on time or maybe early. Like, let's be crazy here.
Yep.
And if at 10% net profit, which is a good number to start with, probably, I know I'm at $1,000. Right? I've got $1,000 of profit if everything goes super well. So $9,000 is the minimum, and that's if I make no money. Not a great idea, but so in a moment's notice, I can't do it for 8.
Yeah,
There's no way.
I always just say, I mean, there's knowing the numbers, but like take discounting off the table, and just when someone's like, hey, and they're always, again, someone's always going to be cheaper than you. I just say like, gosh, but they're not as good as us. But here, let me just tell you what our pricing policy is for all of our customers. It's free or full price. Now, when we do free work, it's for charitable organizations, or like I always say, like, hey, you got those little old ladies in your community, you need to go take care of them. Never charge them a dime, because that's just the right thing to do. I always say the little old ladies and the mother-in-laws, you're always gonna be
Fair.
giving free work, right?
That's
But
fair.
that's a decision of who we make the free work for. And I'm sorry, on your $1 million house, part of I mean, you're not going to say this, right?
You're right,
But
right.
we don't operate a charity for millionaires. It's just not something that we do. So
Sure.
free or full price. You don't really qualify for the free part, so it's full price. If you pay full price, you can just get out of our way. We're going to blow your socks off. Now, I will give a discount, but I always qualify it. And this is what I mean. It's like, hey, $10,000 is the price. Somebody else is at 8. Can you do it for that? And you're like, no, we can't. But here's what I can do for you. Tell you what, we'll do this for $8,000. But what we're going to do is we're going to bring a camera crew out here tomorrow, and we're going to film you, and we're going to make a 30-second video, and you're going to talk about how awesome we are. And you're going to tell everybody they need to hire us. And then in the middle of all of this, when it's messy and it's all of that kind of stuff, we're going to have you stand out there again and saying like, I thought it was going to be worse than this, but like, it has been so much fun. And I'm going to shoot another video. Right. And then at the end, we're going to have a big reveal party. We're going to bring everybody from the neighborhood into your backyard. We'll pay for all of this. Right. But you're going to lead the chart, and we're going to get video and photographic, documentation of all of this and turn it into a big marketing thing. So you know what? We will give you a $2,000 price decrease, because I'm going to get $10,000 worth of marketing out of this.
Yep.
If we can agree to that, it's not a discount. It's just and you need to view it as that. There are always those projects. They're the right clients in the right neighborhood, the right project. And it's like, oh man, this is going to set us up well. That's not a discount. I consider it marketing, but you make the deal. Say, you know what? Like, I'm obviously, if we're at $10,000 and they want it for $5,000, that's not going to work out, but that's a business decision. And the only way you can know that is know what your marketing costs are. Say like, oh my gosh, we're going to get 4 or 5 years of run rate out of this one job from marketing. It's worth $20,000. Heck yeah. I'll give you $2,000, but you have to agree to all of the things.
Sure.
And if you don't, you're going to pay $10,000.
Yeah.
And we'll cover the cost for all the marketing stuff. But like, you put that in front of people and say, do this, do this, do this. We're going to film you, put you on camera. They're like, okay. I mean, I still want to get pictures and all of that kind of stuff, but that's how I deal with discounts.
So we do something similar in the business in that. So if there's a brand new neighborhood and it's the right neighborhood, right, and there's a corner lot in this right neighborhood, we'll go to the client and say, I would love to put a yard sign in your front yard. And I would love it a lot if you would commit to leaving it in the yard for 2 weeks. Now, I know that's going to be a pain. You're going to have to weed eat around it or pull it out before you mow. I get it. So to compensate for that, we're willing to give you X amount of compensation in a discount. I know, guys, we talk about don't discount. But I don't view it as a discount, right? I view it, to your point, as an advertising expense. And that's how we draw it up in the books. X amount in advertising expense. But because I know our numbers, I know it's going to be X percent, right? Because basically I split the profit with them. Hey, you keep half the profit in terms of an advertising expense. That's a good investment for me, because I view it, if it's a corner lot, right on the way in, and the people going into their home every day and going to work every morning see our sign, we typically pick up 2 to 3 jobs from it. So we can make those numbers work.
Yeah, and I don't have a problem with anybody asking me for a discount. I'm just going to make sure that the numbers work. I don't know. Let's say on a big project, it might make sense. $50,000, $80,000 fence project. I don't know, whatever. And they say, here's our payment schedule or whatever, and say, well, can I get a discount if I pay up front? Heck yeah, I'll take 3% off because I'll take cash now, then cash 2 months from now, and that just comes from knowing your numbers. But again, I would explain to them, it's like, I'm not actually discounting it. We have it, part of our pricing is that we're going to be out money for a certain amount of time. It's just we've got interest on that money figured in.
Yeah.
You're eliminating the interest on the money. So yeah, well, great. Most people can't write an $80,000 check. But I would also say, like, all right, $80,000, no refunds, like, locked it. I mean, again, that's a question for an attorney and a CPA to work all that kind of stuff out. But the idea is, like, I'm not just going to drop my price, but if I know my numbers, I'll be like, hey, I'll actually give you, this is going to be worth some marketing that we do across all, and it makes sense. Again, your customer's going to hear it. They're going to be happy. They're going to call it a discount, but the business owner is actually like, all right, we're going to ride this gravy train of marketing of $2,000, and we're going to turn it into $20,000 in the next year. That I'll do all day long.
Yeah. Well, and so the example I use there is, like, say I can make a magical money machine, and every time you put in $2,000, it spits out $20,000. What would you do? You would spend all day pumping $2,000 into this machine, right? Like, that's how we view advertising.
Yeah.
It is expensive. Like, depending on what advertising you do, it can be expensive. However, if that machine pops out 20,000 every time you put in 2,000, pretty good machine.
The advertising, the marketing is only expensive if you're not getting a return on it. Like, it's a lot of, it can be a lot of dollars going out, but that's why it's important to understand what the dollars are coming in. And most people, when they start, they're just like, oh man, that's a lot of money going out. And you got to start that flywheel spinning, and it does cost a lot of money. But here's the other thing too: when it's a lot of construction companies, I hear this all the time. Oh, we're word of mouth, and I'm like, word of mouth marketing sucks if you don't control the words people are saying. Hey, you guys, you got to call Ozark Finch. Joe and his guys, awesome. They do great work. This is part of the craftsman cycle. They do great work. And I mean, we talked to 5 other guys, and they were the cheapest ones. You ought to call them. That kind of word of mouth marketing puts you out of business. Instead of like, you got to call Joe and his guys. They're awesome. Now, they're going to be probably a little bit more expensive. We were initially shocked at what the price was, but oh my gosh, I would never go with anybody else because it was just an amazing experience. That's the kind of word of mouth marketing that you want, but people don't inherently say that. You got to tell them when they sign the contract with you, hey, by the way, we need you to be our #1 salesperson. Now, how do you do that? We're going to show up on the project, and especially with females, let them know. Don't just pull out the cell phone camera and be like, hey, can I take your pic? Like, give them a heads up saying, like, we'd like to, on day one, we just love to have our crews working in the background. And if you can just stand here next to our sign, just with your smiling face, because I mean, as handsome of a guy as you are, Joe, and you're on it, like, no offense, right?
Sure.
Right? Oh, big tattooed contractor, can't trust that guy, YouTube star, he's just selling something. But Ozark Fence has the crews in the background, your nice fence, and a homeowner that looks just like me or the next person that's going to call. That's what is going to sell the next job. Right.
Absolutely.
So you gotta tell them, we want to make you our #1 salesperson. The way that we do that, we're going to take a picture of you, get a video of you. We need a testimonial from you. There's a lot of work that goes into it, but man, if you can be our #1 salesperson, and then that's where at the end of the project, that surprise and delight, like they get the orange Ozark jacket, or they get the hat, or they get the, whatever that thing is, man. People will, and when people come to your website and they see that marketing, they don't see you, they see people just like them, and say, you know what? Oh, there's a picture of a young family with a couple of kids and the dogs, especially. I mean, I imagine you're putting a lot of fences in. Thank God for pets, right? They create a lot of work for us, right? Oh, they've got a 400-pound dog like we do, and that family is us. We should call that company.
Absolutely. I saw a dentist that did this really well. So after procedure, they would take a video testimonial of the patient saying, because the dentist would be, and he frames it like he understands what people say about dentistry, right? It hurts, it's painful, it's you hear the sound, rah, rah, rah. So his videos are, he goes, it was really bad, wasn't it? And they go, well, it actually wasn't that bad. Oh, weird. But it probably took a really long time, huh? Well, no, it wasn't that bad. And did we take a break in the middle? Yeah. You let me get up and walk around. Weird. Would you do it again? Well, I'd rather not, but I would. That's the video. That's his video testimonial script, right? It not as bad as I thought. It didn't take as long as I thought, and I got to get up and move around in the middle of it. I wore some headphones so I didn't have to hear that drill sound, because he knows what people think, right? So he knows what the inherent obstacles are he has to overcome. If someone needs some dental work done and they've seen these videos and they don't have a dentist they already go to, they're probably going to give them a call, right?
Yeah.
Because there's, to your point, there are people that are just like them. It's not the dentist saying, hello, we have a great process and this is this. No, it's people that literally just got done having this done, right?
Yeah.
And that's part of the script is, Jim, tell me what just happened. Well, I just had some crowns put in. Oh, why'd you have to have crowns put in? And just on and on. But to your point, because then someone will see someone that is just like them, that's going through something that they're going through, that had concerns that similar to their concerns. And then at the end of this, they're like, well, it sounds like somewhere I want to go.
Yeah. Yeah. And most business owners make the mistake in marketing and advertising. And it just comes from the curse of knowledge. They make the mistake of talking about the features. We're the best fence company around, and we've got all these products. And as soon as you mention something technical, people's brains check out because they don't understand what, they don't understand what that thing is. Mm-hmm. But when you, so people don't like to be sold to, and they realize when they're being sold to, but people like stories and they like their problems to be solved. So there's a stay-at-home mom that's talking about having this backyard oasis or safety for the kids and the pets. Like, it's nothing about the fence. It's about the emotional part. And then, like, this is my problem. I was always stressed out when I let the dog out. The kids didn't have, whatever it is, or I was looking for a relaxing private place. And then that was my problem. And people would be like, I got that problem. I got that problem. Now here's what I got. Look at this beautiful thing that I got. Here's how it made me feel. And we enjoy all this. It's like, there's the story, right? Yeah. Here's the problem. Look at this picture, as we call the picture of success. And then you open that story loop to say, well, and this is all done in like 30 seconds. Like, how did you get that? We called Joe over at Ozark Fence, and they solved our problem, made us feel great. And then, you come, I know you do a lot of video, and then there's the beautiful fade in with Joe and your arms around and everybody's smiling. And then it's like, go to the website or call our office or whatever. And it's just like, and they leave there thinking like, I want all my problems solved, and Joe's the guy to do it.
Yep. Yeah. In the fencing industry, there's this joke that there's three things that keep a fence company in business: it's kids, it's pets, and it's bad neighbors. Those are the top three reasons that someone gets a fence. And we've talked about that a little bit about that. So we know this, we accept this. And the reason you laughed is because it's true. It's right. Totally like it's true. Literally true. So let's focus our efforts towards that. Right. So what do? Some people would say, well, I build fence. I provide safe places for your kids and pets. Safe place without kids and pets. You don't want your neighbor's kid in your pool?
That's right.
I've got
so many avenues you can go with that.
Yeah. And that's the thing. So springtime. So right now we're looking at springtime campaigns. And so one of them is going to be pool safety during National Pool Safety Month. It's going to be, if you've got a pool, you've got a problem, right? And guess what? I'm a problem solver. I can keep your kids, the neighbor's pets, your pets out of your pool. And we do it quickly, efficiently, with no headache on your end. If that sounds appealing, this isn't the message, but the idea, if this sounds appealing, give the team a call. We'd love to help you out with that.
Yeah. That's
To
great.
your point, be a solution, be a
Yeah,
problem solver.
that's right. And what I'm saying on the advertising and marketing side of it, start with the problem.
Yeah,
Start get your customers to say not how great you were. We'll get to that, right?
sure.
Because people are like, oh, that's sale. Like like just say, ask them, what was your problem before? We were worried about neighbors, pets, and kids. And
Yep.
then how do you feel now? Well, we feel great now. Awesome. Why is it that you feel great? Well, I mean, it's almost it really is that simple. Here's the
Yeah,
problem. Here's the solution. And here was how we got it. We called these people and we worked with their team and it was awesome.
bingo. And you just rinse and repeat that
Rent, yep,
exact plan.
that's what I heard somebody say that when you find your marketing message or you develop your funnel that works, you got to be careful. Don't get bored with the message.
Yeah.
As the owner, don't get bored with the message. The team, don't get bored with it, or don't change the message. Right when you find what works, you only change your marketing message when your CPA gets bored with it. Meaning, you got so much money, dude. We can change the message. Right?
Yeah, sure.
It is rinse, and most people have to see stuff 11 times, 12 times before they registers with them once. So
Yeah.
again, it's one of those things like with the sales conversations. This is the 50th time we've had a conversation this week when someone told us you're too expensive. That's fine. This
Yeah.
is the first time they've had it, right?
Sure.
This is the 40th week that we've been running these ads, right? But now people start calling because it's like, oh, it's the spring. And they needed to see that thing 12 times during the winter. And then they start thinking about, you know what? I got to fix the pool. Oh yeah, we've been meaning that fence thing. Who is that guy on YouTube that kept popping up?
Yep. That's right. That's exactly correct. So people don't need a fence all the time, right? Like if we do our jobs right, they only need us once in several years, unless a hurricane or a tornado. But
Yeah.
So we just need to live rent free in the back of their minds until they get to that cycle where they need it. Or, I mean, let's be honest, like Facebook is a real thing. These Facebook neighborhood groups are a real thing. So you also need to stay rent free in the back of their mind until they see a post on Nixon neighborhoods that says, I need a fence. Who builds good fence? And then they go, huh, I remember this video, and God bless them if they link the video. That's happened a couple times, and
Yeah.
thank you. Thank you so much. No, usually what happens is they'll just tag Ozark Fence in the comments, reach out to Ozark Fence. They do good work and this and that. What we realized, so this was kind of an observation we made probably a couple years ago now. So I was wanting to thank these people for referring us, right? Send them a thank you card, handwritten, really appreciate it. Rarely are these people our clients. Like we couldn't find these people in our client list for me to send them a thank you. I was going to pull them up, have the address, send them a thank you letter. And that's kind of where this really clicked for me. I'm like, huh. So we didn't actually do work for them, but they talked to somebody that we did do work for, or they just saw enough of the marketing message that it clicked, it resonated, and then they just repeated it later on. You can't pay for that. But if your message resonates well enough, you just get to live rent free in the back of their mind until you're needed.
Yeah, absolutely. And that you just, like you said, rinse and repeat.
That's right. Well, that's the thing, is because you need not everyone looks the same. Not everyone has the same scenarios. So if you could have 10 or 12 of these client testimonials, there's a good chance you're going to have someone that resonates with one of these messages. So right now we have, I'd have to go look, I want to say 6 or 7 video campaigns running. One is, we're a customer service company that happens to build fence. One is quality is our standard. The other, on and on and on, because sometimes people need to hear a different message that, the customer service message might not resonate with them, but the quality is the standard. Maybe that is a message that resonates with them. Same thing with the video testimonials, is that their problem might not be that they just got a brand new puppy. Their problem might be the neighbor just got a brand new puppy and that thing won't quit messing in their yard. So those are two different messages.
Yeah.
So if they saw someone saying, I just got the greatest puppy and Ozark Fence did a great job to keep this thing from running away, that message isn't going to resonate with them.
Yeah.
right? So that would be an alternate point, is you rinse repeat enough because you need more scenarios too.
Yeah, I was just thinking of an idea. What if you did a video ad where you're like, like the whole thing about good neighbor, bad neighbor. So it's like one video was like, oh, we just got a puppy and we're so excited about it, and we're looking forward to having Ozark Fence come out and blah blah. And then it cuts to the neighbor on the other side. It's like they got a freaking puppy, and we can't wait to, we're going to keep. And then you go back and saying like the kids are really excited, and we're choosing between the 6-foot privacy and this and that. And you're just like, and the other, it says like, we're talking with them about how to install a steel 12-foot, I don't know, security with lights and razor wire and, or whatever. And then cut back like that kind of ad. That would be, that would be hilarious.
So I think that'll come up in Monday morning's meeting of, do we have a scenario? Because I like that idea so much.
Yeah.
Because it's speaking to both sides of the problem, right? It's creating a solution for both people. And you could run that out.
I could just see like a split screen going there. Like that would be, If you need to invite me into that Monday meeting to ideate about that a little bit more, that'd be fun.
Because you can make this for kids too, right?
Yeah.
We just got a trampoline and all these kids are coming over and we just can't, this is okay. Another great one is the parents are like, all these neighborhood kids keep coming in. We can't wait for Ozark Fence. And then you're interviewing the neighborhood kids are like, they just got a trampoline and it is awesome.
Yeah.
But they're getting an Ozark Fence, and we
can't get in there.
Yeah,
right? I was thinking another, just when you said, because we got a new dog, and it's we have a fence. Thank God we have a fence. But one more thing is like telling a story from the dog's point of view, like they're in prison. Like the dog is the narrator, and he's like he can't get out. He and his boys have tried a couple of different things, and they got big plans. Or you just be like, hey, we've been able to break out of this prison all the time, and blah blah blah. And then Ozark Fence comes in, and it's just like, wait a minute, like we can't get out of it. Like you tell from the story of the dog. Anyway,
I like that. Yeah. Well, it's actually a group of dogs, and they're like, all right, Saturday night we're running the neighborhood. It's gonna happen.
Exactly.
Then Saturday you see like all of them but one skirt up to this fence. They're like, where's Bruiser?
Yeah, or
Bruiser on the other side.
Like, they go around one dog that's a ringleader goes around to the neighborhood, and they're jumping over the fence, they're digging under, and they're like, all right, the gang's out, right? And then it fast forwards to like this ringleader who's just in a chain link or whatever, right?
Yeah.
And then he's starting to go around, and like everywhere he goes, there's like an Ozark Fence now, and the dogs are like, we can't,
He's like, the neighborhood just isn't the same anymore.
That's right. The neighborhood just isn't the same since Ozark Fence.
This neighborhood used to be for the dogs, and now, This is the point, guys. These are the messages, though, that resonate, right? Because I'm sure you guys at home are thinking this through, and you're like, that's exactly right. Now, notice we didn't talk about features or benefits, right? Or
no.
Technical features and benefits, right?
Dude, so your phones, anybody takes these ideas, please don't, like, they're gonna ring off the hook, because like people want, like, also it depends on your brand and all that kind of stuff. But I would just say like people like to buy from other people. So you got to humanize, and that's just a way. Advertising and marketing is a way to humanize that, to say like, yeah, you're dealing with it's not we build fences, all right, but there's a little bit of personality behind the scene. When you call the office, you're gonna get some people that have a funny dog video out there.
Yeah,
like it's a family business. There's real people. We don't take ourselves too seriously, but we take our customers very seriously. People are just gonna be signing up left and right.
Well, and you hit on something there too. A message I give a lot lately is you are your best brand ambassador. Right, that people don't do business with businesses; they do business with people.
That's right.
And the example I use is in the 80s, Nike had a problem that they were losing market share to Reebok, Adidas, and all this, but they didn't have anyone that really resonated with their clients. So they went and hired someone, Jordan. And since the 1980s, and this was a Forbes article. I want to say it was last year. I'll have to go find it, but they had paid Jordan $2 billion with a B dollars to be their brand ambassador. And my point usually in these talks is I don't have a couple $1 billion to go pay a brand ambassador, so I am the brand ambassador.
That's right.
But Nike realized that they needed someone that people could resonate with and relate to, that people knew. Now, I know for a fact if I go buy a new pair of Jordans, I don't get to meet Michael Jordan, right? Like, he's not the one handing me the shoes, but I do know Jordan, right? Like, I watched him play basketball as a kid and all this. So, like, I can somewhat relate to that. And the story I use is, so, you know, and this gets a little bit in the weeds. So my sister Sarah runs our residential now. So she's the person knocking on the door. But when this clicked for me, I went and knocked on this lady's door. We've been doing a lot of Facebook. I did Ask a Fence Guy Friday live, Facebook and all this. I went and knocked on this lady's door. She opened the door and she goes, "You're the guy on Facebook." And I was like, "Yeah, well," and this had happened. So I had like a little line. So I was like, "Well, yeah." I said, "Here's the thing. I am too cheap to hire somebody to do that, to hire an actor. And if I did, they wouldn't look like me."
Yeah.
And then we went into the backyard and I said, "Now we do things a little bit differently. We use steel posts instead of wood posts." And she's like, "Oh, the ones that have the wind warranty, right? That have the guarantee that a strong wind isn't going to blow this thing down. That's the one." Exactly. And so it clicked with me at that moment that she, on her own time, got to know me and my business and our product offerings before I even knocked on the door. She knew who was coming. Now, she was surprised that it was actually me.
Yeah.
But she already trusted us, right?
Yeah.
And she knew the products. My job in that moment was just to give her a price and see if it fell within her budget.
Yeah. I do.
That's when it
I
clicked.
do the same thing. I mean, people see the book and they see me on Instagram, YouTube, my website, you know, all that kind of stuff. And then when people apply, depending on which program they apply for, it leads them into a phone call with me. And I love that when I'm, you know, and I get information, you know, when people book a call to apply for one of our programs. And I'm like, "Hey, Joe, good to talk to you." And they're like, "I didn't expect it to be you." And I'm like, "Yeah."
Yes.
But they feel, you know, because of what's been out there, they're just like, "Oh man, I feel like," and you even said it, you're like, "I can't believe I'm talking to this guy." I'm like, "I'm just a guy that wrote a book and, you know, this is what I do," or whatever. But yeah, that's why it's so important to, like, you want to make sure that you, like you said, people like to buy from other people.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't always be the salesperson here as we grow like anybody else, but like there's an opportunity to make sure that that your, whatever you're selling, your product, your service, that eventually people get the feeling that they're buying it from a person, you know?
Yeah. Right.
So,
well,
hey,
that's,
I gotta head out.
you got it.
No, that's all right. This is great. But like you said before, I was like, "Oh man, you know, the time will start clicking by." So
It will. It always does. Shawn, thank you. I really appreciate you being so giving of your time. I know we went way over time from what we talked about.
Right.
I appreciate it so much. Shawn, if someone wants to learn more about you, I mean, we have your personal site linked below. We also have the book linked below. How does someone reach out to you? How does someone learn more about what you do?
Yeah, so they can go, if you're interested, you think you need some coaching or some business training, we have the Built to Build Academy. So you can go to builttobuildacademy.com. And like I said, you can fill out some information there and pick one of the programs that you're most interested in. You'll end up with probably on the phone with me if you apply for one of the programs, or follow me on Instagram. It's just Shawn Van Dyke, and you can DM me there. Like I'm the one that's behind all the DMs. Like I read all my own messages and all that kind of stuff. Or go to ShawnVanDyke.com, which is linked down below. So lots of play. Or if you can't remember any of that, just type in Shawn Van Dyke in Google, and it, you know, all of our stuff should show up. So but yeah, have anybody feel free to reach out to me and get the book. We've got a bunch of free training out there around profit first, around you know, number crunching, how to get paid for estimates, and all that kind of stuff. So just go, I would say, hit me up on Instagram, and then just go down the rabbit hole of all of our other social media channels, and you'll get in contact with me.
You've got it. Well, Shawn, I want to tell you thank you also for my business, because I know the impact that Profit First for Contractors had on it. It has changed its trajectory. So I personally want to say thank you on behalf of the good business as well.
Hey, thank you, man. I am so excited to be here today, and would love to come back.
Yeah, I was gonna say the offer always stands to where I'd like to make this somewhat of a regular thing. Have you come on and maybe talk about the issues of the day.
Yeah, I look forward to it, man. So have
Very good.
a Merry Christmas and look forward to seeing you again in the new year then.
Sounds good. Hey, say thanks to your family also for being giving with your time as well.
I will. All right. See you, Joe.
Bye, Shawn.
Bye.
Guys, I hope you have a notepad full of notes from that interview with Shawn. Holy cow. I meant what I said, that where the Profit First for Contractors book had a massive effect on my business. I hope you guys got as much out of that as I did. Let me rewind a little bit back through the chat. I knew we only had Shawn on for a limited time because, as you can imagine, a guy like Shawn is very busy and he's got some family time, and we can all respect that. I wanted to keep with Shawn and get as much from that interview as I could. Let me rewind to the comments. If you guys are still sticking with me, I really appreciate it. Let's get back up to the top. Tom Williams says, "Is it live today?" It is live today. So Tom made some comments on last week's video, unfortunately, after it had posted. Now, I'm trying to figure out a great way of letting you guys know, like, when this is live and when it's a live recording or recorded live. If that makes sense. It is live today. It's live every Saturday. Wait, pause. Not every Saturday. One thing to note, next week, we're not going to be here because of Christmas. The week after, it's going to be New Year's. Probably also not going to be here. Let's just be honest with ourselves. We're not going to be here on New Year's Day. So most every Saturday when we are live is from 10 to 12, 12:30, sometimes 1 o'clock Central. Is your nail gun 15-degree coil nail gun? It is on the finished nails. So we use steel posts instead of wood posts, and that's a whole different discussion. But for the finished nail, 15-degree coil nailer, that's the one. Believe, I have to go look at them. I want to say most of them are Hitachi. Now, Hitachi is rebranded or someone acquired Hitachi. Not completely sure, but I did see the last two guns that came in look just like Hitachi, but they had a different name on them. So I will get back with you on branding. On board fence is the first layer gap, 3 inches or 3.5. Typically 3.5. We use 6-inch pickets, so the overlap is enough. It probably depends on the width of your picket because you're going to need to cover that. I like to see at least 1 inch coverage on either side, so we play that. 3.5 inches is also the width of a 2x4, so that tends to be kind of handy. Or Shawn also has a shadowlizer tool that makes that even easier than using a 2x4. Stay tuned for a future video. Morning, everyone. On the road today, but listening. If you guys watch the channel, you know this is Ideal Fencing from NCI, North Central Indiana. Tom says, I ended up using 2 Postmaster metal fence posts for my corner last week. No clips available. Totally fine. So clips on a Postmaster post, they sell them to retail clients. So Home Depot, Lowe's, Menard, like whatever home improvement store you can find them at, they typically sell the clips. On the contractor side, don't typically use the clips. Chris says, the sign up for St. Cecile University appears to be closed. Any ideas on when the next time to sign up is going to be available? So I'll have to check the link. So Chris, did you find that link in the description? I want to say I'll double check that. After this live, I'm going to double check all the links just to make sure, because I just thought about it. I haven't done that lately. There is another Stainless Steel Experts University coming up in Nashville in February. I will be sure that all of these moving forward will have that link. But yeah, there is one coming up in February in Nashville at Stainless Steel Experts Home Turf for Stainless Steel University. Matt Warner, welcome, buddy. I hope you enjoyed that. You're one of the guys where I was thinking about, like, who would get a kick out of this interview with Shawn. You were on my mind. So I don't know that you could have a separate checking count for each job. So we do 4 to 6 jobs a week. It'd be a lot of checking counts. So as we talked about briefly, so in the Profit First system, there's typically 5 foundation accounts, 5 standard accounts. You've got income, owner's comp, profit. You can switch those in terms of like order, right? Income, profit, owner's comp, OPEX, payroll. 5 accounts. You can also then branch out. So like I said, we're going to have a charitable giving account, which will actually just be sectioned off from the profit, but that money is for charitable giving. Yeah. So separate checking accounts. That's how I would separate them. That's how we separate them in my business. It's not the only way, I'm sure, but it works out really well for me because at a glance, I can see where all my money's at and how it's allocated. So this is interesting. So Tom's got a good point too. That so this is when we were talking about the deduction, charitable contribution, advertising expense, way more deductible. Contact your CPA or bookkeeper to double check that. But typically, advertising expenses are the way to go. But this is not financial advice. I am not a financial advisor. I'm a fence guy with a YouTube channel. Bob Bratt says, tell us, guys, about time worker or two are sick. Did you feel some loss in money flow when project was not done on time? Yes. This week, in fact. So one of our crews was down for COVID. One tested positive. The other two had been obviously in the same truck with him for a prolonged period of time. So yeah, I mean, there's no way around it. Cash flow suffers because you're not able to get that work done. So it is what it is. I mean, people understand, right? So because we have these foundational accounts, there's money in the bank to where we can make this cash flow stretch. We still made payroll this week and that sort of thing. It's something we plan for days lost because of weather, but they also work out for days lost for sickness, that sort of thing. Very good. Reading the book right now. I think everyone should. Absolutely. Project Metal Music is with us from the UK. Welcome. Greetings. Good afternoon. Todd, I agree. Todd says never discount. So free upgrades are the way, right? And that's what we talk about a lot is rather than discount, offer a comparable upgrade, no charge upgrade, or Sean King calls them upgrade credits. I like that a lot. I like that terminology a lot. You create a competitive advantage, therefore justifying an increased cost. Absolutely. Educate the customer as to why you are a better value, even at a higher price. That is the name of the game. Absolutely, Todd. Todd is on the right track. Thank you, bud. Kasurik's here with us. Hey, guys. Greetings from Philly. Kasurik, welcome from Springfield. So, all right. Last week, we didn't figure out how to make the video work. This week, I think I figured it out. Maybe. We'll see. We're going to add the video to the stream. Okay. So this week's video is going to be basically I did a review video on how chain link wires made. This video series, this has led me down a whole road. And I think you guys will hear announcements in the future. This is where those announcements started. See if it works. Does it work? Welcome back, everybody. Joe Everest, the fence expert. I was having a conversation with someone the other day about how they weave chain link fencing. How does it work? How do they make it? So I thought that'd be a great subject for today's video. So I went out and found a couple videos on how they weave chain link wire. One of them's a mechanized version. It's probably pretty similar with what you'd find here in the United States. Actually, this video is from the United States. A little bit old, but I have to think the technology is still fairly similar. Now, in searching for this video, I came across a second video, which is actually overseas, hand weaving chain link wire into rolls. I thought that was incredibly interesting, and we will check it out following this video. Before we get into this, though, remember, if you find this content helpful or educational, it would mean the world to me if you gave it a like. It helps the channel. Completely free way of showing your support. That also goes for this live. If you guys like it, hit the like. It honestly does make a difference in the algorithm and who YouTube and Facebook shows the video to. Also, if you look below this video and the subscribe button is red, click that button, give the channel a subscribe. It lets YouTube know that we're consistently creating great content for you guys. And it would also mean a lot to us. With all that being said, let's check out how we weave chain link wire. All right. So as you guys can see, the video is titled Burgundy, WVR5. All right. This is a good question. So as you guys are watching this, leave it in the comments below. Is it chain link wire or chain link fabric? I've heard it both ways. What do you guys call it? Drop it in the comments below. 500 chain link weaving machine. So I suppose this is probably a promotional video for the machine itself. Check it out. So right off the bat is starting off with what looks like just coiled wire. So it looks like it's already galvanized, which would mean this would be a pre-galvanized wire or galvanized before weaving. Certainly one way to do it. One problem I've seen with galvanized before weaving wire is typically where that wire is bent over, where it knuckles, whether it's at the ends or in the middle, where the uh, wires are woven into each other. That makes sense. Anywhere it bends, typically that's where you start seeing rust. That galvanized cracks right there and start showing you problems. But to each their own, I guess. The alternate would be galvanized after weaving. So they would weave this and then run the entire product through a bath of hot galvanizing, usually zinc based galvanizing. All right, so we just saw the strand coming in smooth. So in this green portion, this green rectangle, it must be weaving it into the diamond type patterns or half diamond patterns. You know, I've never seen one of these machines go. This is actually moving a little bit slower than I had kind of thought it would. I guess I had imagined it would be more of a continual process. Still clipping right along. I don't mean to diminish the machine, I guess, but taking a little bit longer than I thought it might. This side is going to be the twist. So this is knuckle twist, KT wire. So this is taking those two strands and then twisting them into each other. I don't know how to demonstrate that. I kind of like to see more. I hope that's where we're headed. I like to see more about how they're taking this smooth strand and weaving it into that half diamond pattern. Okay, so this is the knuckle side of the knuckle twist. It's simply taking each one of those strands and bending them over on themselves. Okay, that's interesting. So it looks like it's taking two strands at the same time, I suppose, and weaving them into each other. Now, I wish it doesn't go into more detail on this. I wish it did. I am super curious about what that process looks like, where how it makes those half diamonds, that the zipper pattern, right? Um, I wish they'd gone into more detail before weaving them into the fabric, which we only saw one strand of smooth come in, so maybe it's magic. I mean, it's very clearly two strands there. They're already making the diamond before it goes into the wire. There's probably another strand of smooth coming in somewhere else. There it is. So it's behind the machine. Not magic after all. Let's see what this is telling us. It's telling us 25 diamonds tall. It's telling us blade speed sets at 800, whatever that means. And then it gives you a picket count. So they've run 113 pickets through 211 sets. So obviously that's probably not, I guess it's probably keeping total count, right? And then they're cutting it at the end to make it into rolls, maybe. I wish they had shown more on this part too. So they don't show, and I go on and talk about here in a minute, but I don't see how this is terminated, right? So how this roll is terminated. How do they know when it's 50 foot? Obviously, so it's counting strands, so it knows where it's at in the process. But how in the world does it figure that out? Does it just at X amount of the way? So I had a different idea in this video, but I've thought about it since. The way I think it probably works is it counts the strands and then it just doesn't weave one and it just runs it through the cycle at 50 foot and then it starts over. I think that's probably a better guess than what I'm getting ready to come up with on the video. So it rolls off those green racks right onto the pallet. It's pretty slick. Well, guys, looks like that's the video as far as how the machine works. That's where the video I would have liked to see how they cut that wire when the roll's done. Like, how does it keep track of 50 foot in a roll of wire? Now, we all know there's never actually 50 feet in the roll. It would have been interesting to see, so I would guess the two guys at the end of the process were simply unweaving one of the strands and then at 50 foot. But it'd be good to know like how they know where that 50 foot mark is. One more I thought on that idea, that idea doesn't really make much sense. I mean, that is how you could terminate the roll, but how do they know where the 50 foot is? I think the machine probably counts pickets or, pickets, the wire pickets, and then just ends the process at 50 foot, lets it run through that whole system. Once it wraps up, that's your 50 foot. One thought here is I would like to shoot one of these videos. I'd like to go out to one of the manufacturers and actually see one of these in production. I'd like to see like a manufacturer, like somewhere, Southwestern Wire, somewhere like that. See this done at scale. I think that would be incredibly interesting. So in the intro, I let you guys know that in searching for this video, I found a different video where they are actually, it's overseas, where they're actually hand weaving rolls of chain link wire. Let's check that out. All right, so this video is titled How to Make a Chain Link Fence, Handmade Chain Link Fence. So again, a bunch of smooth wire all stacked up, already galvanized. So this is another galvanized before weaving operation. That seems like a ton of smooth strand there. It seems like a lot of wire. This thing's crazy to watch. All right, so it's pulling the smooth up through this pulley contraption, through what looked like a set of tensioners, those rollers, and then twisting around a central cord to make it into those diamond patterns. Is what it appears like to me. That's interesting. So they've got a weight on the wire to try to keep tension, to keep it just from unspooling altogether. Look at how smooth the floor is, like around the wire. This thing runs quite a lot, it seems like. So I'm guessing that that Burgundy machine is similar in how it makes the wire to this one. But if you guys remember, that Burgundy machine is actually taking two spools. So not only is it making one picket or one strand of wire, it's also simultaneously making a second and weaving those two together. That is something I really do want to see in person. So it looks like they're running it out. You know, looks like 10 or 12-foot strands there, and he's just cutting it at a predetermined location. Be interesting to know how he knows exactly where to cut it. Thing's running incredibly fast. Okay, so that makes more sense because, like I said, it looked like he was running 10 or 12-foot strands out. So they were probably 12 foot and cutting them down to size maybe into 6 foot. Really, you could cut them into whichever sizes you like. OSHA would absolutely have a coronary watching something like this. It really would. So one point is, I guess, the end of that wire. So this was all galvanized before weaving. So the cuts, they don't look are being coated. So you'd be concerned about rust showing up at either side of the cut ends. Just hand weaving it as they go there. Man, that's crazy. That has got to take just a tremendous amount of skill to do it at the speed that she's doing it at. They are knuckling it, so a little less of the of like finished quality on the knuckling, obviously, and on the machine we saw that it was pretty consistent each and every weave. These being handmade, they're going to be a little less polished. So you saw you had it on stakes at that one end. I'd almost bet there's probably stakes at the other end, driven roughly 50 feet apart. So they could take one long strand, stretch it out, know exactly where to cut it. Also, looking at it, look how far apart those diamonds are. Something I guess I didn't catch during the reaction video, but those are, yeah, there's no telling how big those diamonds are. Like 3-inch, 4-inch diamonds, maybe. Pretty large. So typically you would see depending on the weight of the wire, 2.5, 2.25, 2-inch mesh, which is just the distance diagonally between those diamonds. That looks absolutely massive. It's bigger than what you'd find at Lowe's. Looks like there's the finished product, a 50-foot roll of what looks like might be 42-inch chain link. Finished roll is ready to go out. It looks like so. It's interesting seeing the contrast from one facility to the other, where the others were stacked neatly, everything was nice and tidy, and these are a little less so. Looks like maybe 42-inch, 48-inch. There you have it. Hand weaving galvanized chain link wire. Tell you what, guys, that was pretty incredible. Watching them hand weave that. Holy cow. Talk about skill. It's easy to judge just something different than how we're used to seeing it, but I'm always interested to see how everything's made everywhere, right? So seeing that how that's handmade was incredibly interesting to me. I'd like to hear your guys' thoughts on it. Well, guys, I tell you what, let's go ahead and start wrapping this up. If you guys have any last minute questions, drop them in the comments below. Also, remember the next 2 weeks, we're not going to have a live. We've got Christmas and New Year's. The week after that, if the calendar in my mind is operating correctly, is January the 8th. And we'll be having D&J Projects back on. The boys from Nottingham. I cannot wait. It was a great time last time we had them on. Can't wait to have them on again. And once again, we did a reaction video to one of D&J's videos. So we'll all kind of watch that reaction video together. But I don't see any more comments coming through. So we'll go ahead and wrap this up, guys. I hope you guys, hope you guys have a happy holidays. Happy holidays. If this was a brewing channel, that would make sense. Have a happy holidays. I really hope you guys have a good time. Get to see family you haven't seen in a while. Spend some time away from the business. Always good to have a bit of a refresher. Until next time, Joe Everest, the fence expert, reminding you that good fences make good neighbors. And I'll see you guys after the new year. Since I'm a dad, I'm going to make the joke. I'll see you guys next year.